When the soon-to-become infamous rat Alpo hit DC in the late 1980s, Frey was a well-established and respected hustler at the top of DC's street hierarchy. Frey didn't take kindly to New York dudes coming from up top to set up shop in the city. He despised dudes coming down to Chocolate City and hustling on the home turf. But it was more than that. The slick New York dudes would come down with kilos and game, flossing and shining, taking all the DC girls, turning the community out, and getting DC dudes to betray and murder other DC dudes. Just messing things up in general and then leaving the mess for Frey to clean up. Frey didn't like to feel he got played on any level, and dudes like Alpo were conniving, messing it up for the home team. Frey's attitude toward outsiders, especially the dudes from New York, was to lean on them. He put his muscle game down and dared the New Yorkers to make a move. Frey felt secure in his city and he put his mentality in effect. When Alpo came into town flossing and fronting that gangster shit, Frey called his bluff, got stuff off him and didn't even pay him. He treated Alpo like a sucker. He was leaning on the New Yorker and saw him as a coward even before he started snitching. Frey had attention on Alpo from the jump. Before he knew him, he saw the snake for what he was. In retrospect, Frey played Alpo for the buster he was. I saw Frey take 10 keys from Alpo one time, one hustler says. That was how Frey treated the Alpo. Frey got in touch with some of his people from New York and they warned him that Alpo wasn't right. They told Frey that Alpo had set some people up in New York, good dudes, on some deals long before he began to tell. He was a shiesty dude and Frey was forewarned. Frey knew Alpo wasn't a true gangster. He knew Alpo was fronting because zebras can't change their stripes, once a sucker always a sucker. But even suckers can bust their gun, and Frey didn't foresee Alpo's treachery. He was too secure in his status in the city. Frey was in the life though, and death was an occupational hazard. It happened to lesser men every day. Frey just never visioned himself falling prey to the game. He never thought he would be a victim. The Washington Post headline read, "Alleged drug figure slain on DC street." The man known as Frey, government name Michael Salters, had met his demise. He was described by law enforcement officials as one of the city's largest drug dealers, but it was noted that his real power lay in his ability to referee turf disputes among rival drug dealers. In other words, Frey made big power moves, and due to this, he was a man among men. Respected, feared, and loved. This didn't stop him from being gunned down on the streets he came up on. On July 16, 1991, in an ambush at 1st and Bryant Streets Northwest, an unidentified gunman opened fire on Salter's car, Washington, D.C. police reported. The death of a street legend being the result. The city was rocked by his murder. Afraid that Frey was going to have him killed, Alpo paid a D.C. dude to kill a D.C. legend. Frey's body, still inside his bullet-ridden car, was left outside the entrance to the Washington Hospital Center shortly after 10:30 p.m., 5th District Captain James Coffey said. Frey was pronounced dead at about 1 a.m. that morning. The police department said Frey had been shot at least 6 times. A relative of Frey's was driving a van behind Frey's car east on Bryant, when he was cut off by another car near 1st Street, police said. An occupant of the vehicle that cut off the van opened fire on Frey. An uninjured passenger in Frey's car then drove him to the hospital. "I was in prison when Frey got killed," his relative says. "I'll never forget when dude came to my cell and told me that your cousin got killed last night. I got on the phone and called home and couldn't believe it. I wondered who would jump out there like that." Frey had that much pull in DC. It hurts to even talk about this because nothing was really done to answer for it. How can a guy like Frey get killed and people don't tear the city up and go to war? The only person I can say really did something was his nephew Poochie, the relative explained. Darryl Salters, aka Poochie, Frey's nephew, was a stick-up kid who robbed and kidnapped drug dealers. He did a lot of shit behind Frey's murder but was eventually gunned down himself. It was said that Poochie killed a few big names in the game behind Frey's murder, but no one knew if he got the right people. "I heard that this guy Brooks and Alpo were scared of Frey. That's what I heard," Fats says of what the streets were saying about Frey being taken out. About the murder, Alpo said in Feds magazine, Frey was about to get back in position in DC. He had a list of names or people he needed to eliminate, and I was at the top of his list. I found out because I was feeding someone in his camp he wasn't taking care of. That same person ended up killing him for me, Alpo said. At the time though, nobody knew who killed Frey. It was a complete and utter shock that a man of his stature could be taken out like that. His friends, family, allies, associates, and enemies were all dumbfounded. If the ambassador of Chocolate City could be touched, then anyone could now be killed. It was a sobering reality. On March 5, 1993, a 27-count indictment stemming from Alpo case alleged that his crew, from 1989 to 1991, was responsible for 9 homicides. According to the indictment, when Alpo learned of Frey's plans to kill him, he and Wayne Perry paid Michael Jackson $9 grand in cash, a half kilogram of cocaine, and a 9mm handgun to kill Frey. The allegations were never presented in court, but Alpo admitted to them in the magazine interview. As did Wayne Perry, who said of the matter in Don Diva magazine, "As far as the Frey thing, I will tell you what happened. I wouldn't if it could get someone in trouble, but the rat, Alpo already told it. But yes, that was a cruddy snake move. And his trusted friends got him, not me. They put it out there that I did it. Yes, I was after Frey because he put a hit on me. He said he had to get me out of the way so he could extort Alpo. Alpo was scared of Frey, but I wasn't, and Alpo felt okay as long as he had me. So I ended up finding out about the hit on me, and I got at those in Frey's crew, who took the hit, and let Frey know that he was next. But I couldn't track him down. So those snakes that used to be down at that shop on Georgia Avenue, who were close to Frey but were scared of him, played both sides. So Alpo and them set it up for Frey's close buddy to hit him, and then tell all Frey's people that I did it. He is a snake and has no loyalty. The snake Wayne was talking about is Michael Jackson. He even told the feds that he heard that him, Marky and Mario got Frey. The dude is a snake. All the time he was the one that did it, and the dudes at the shop was all in on it. Then, one of my kids' mother heard the whole lie about me killing Frey at Frey's funeral, where all the dudes and the dude that got Frey were saying I did it. At the time, I don't know all of this, and the dude who did it was my man at the time. I still didn't know he did it until we got locked up. The dude knew my daughter's mother heard him at Frey's funeral, so he hurried up and came to me and told me she was at the funeral, telling people I killed Frey. The dude knew I would believe him, and I asked no questions, just did what I did best, which I did. And that's my only regret. May she rest in peace. Michael Jackson is a snake, Wayne Perry concluded. Before his untimely end, Frey was the subject of a 5-year investigation by the Washington Metropolitan Police and the FBI. Frey had been implicated in drug deals of more than £200, but he had proved to be too well insulated from direct involvement to be charged. Agents at times put Salters under intense surveillance and interviewed drug dealers, who said they had worked with and for him. His name also came up in wiretapped conversations. A dude from the R Street case was heard on a wire, saying Frey had paid the district attorney $5 grand for information. That's how far his reach and influence carried. But the feds never got him. Frey met his maker in the streets in a burst of gunfire, like a true outlaw. Some rappers rap about it, but Frey lived it in his life. He was the epitome of the original gangster.